Long distance contacts of 10, 30, 50 or even over 100 miles on handheld two-way radios are achievable. Whenever I put up a video showing this sort of contact, I get a barrage of comments saying that it's impossible, asking if I was in a hot air balloon, saying I'm being misleading, or basically calling me a liar. So I wanted to discuss this topic, respond to some of the particular comments on my most recent video, and tell you how you can easily achieve long-range contacts on a handheld. But first, let's break down some of the affecting factors when it comes to VHF and UHF radio range in simple terms. A repeater is a way of covering long distances on the radio, however they're not primarily designed to cover huge distances, but rather create even coverage when obstacles such as buildings, forestry and hills block radio signals. Repeaters are usually placed at an elevated altitude and act as the go-between for two or more radio operators. A repeater may allow two stations to communicate over 100 miles apart, but this is possible handheld to handheld. So what affects VHF and UHF two-way radio signals? Well, there are many things such as terrain. This could be a hill or mountain, or simply the curvature of the earth, and I do get comments on long distance handheld videos mentioning this, but they don't take into account the next factor, altitude. In radio, height is might. The higher you, the radio, and most importantly the antenna are, the further your signal will radiate. VHF and UHF signals are very much line of sight. High ground eliminates most of what's in the way, but the higher you are, obstacles and the Earth's curvature are less of a problem. Most of my long-range handheld contacts are made from high ground. Sometimes the other station may be in a built-up area 15 to 20 miles away. If I was also down at low level, I'd have little to no chance of making that same contact. Other receiving stations are also on high ground sometimes, which allows me to make the 50, 60, 80 or even well over 100 mile contacts effortlessly. Of course, these distances can be greatly increased without the use of anything but what is known as tropospheric ducting. Now, I said we'd keep this simple, so the basic definition is that tropospheric ducting occurs when a radio signal is reflected off of the troposphere and then continues on a path that allows the signal to travel much further than it normally would. Now, this occurs when the temperature in the atmosphere experiences a shift known as an inversion, and it's more common than you'd think. It can be unpredictable, but would allow for handheld to handheld contacts of many hundreds of miles depending on conditions. Other factors affect two-way radio range as well, such as signal type, signal strength and power output, although this is much less noticeable on a handheld. Weather is another factor, and of course antenna, and I always tend to use the stock antenna supplied with the radio when doing a test. So my final point in clearing this topic up is that there is an argument that handheld two-way radios are generally used in built-up areas, building sites, by security companies, in buildings themselves, and a whole multitude of other impractical uses. Now, these conditions almost certainly require a repeater and can sometimes limit a handheld's range down to as little as a couple of 100 meters or even less. But I'm a radio amateur. My prime use for a handheld is when I'm out on high ground, and that is why I test them there. So you really can achieve long-range radio contacts on a handheld without any repeater or any trickery. You just need to operate under the right conditions.